Hello! Recently, Time magazine published a list of books that they are calling the best of 2024 so far. There are 10 books in total, both fiction and non-fiction, so I'm going to go through and give brief summaries of each of these books and whether I've read it or not read it or not even heard of it. Some of these books are entirely new to me, and the reason why I really enjoy looking through multiple best books of the year lists is when there's a title that appears on multiple lists in different contexts, then that makes me think this is a book I should be really paying attention to and that I really ought to read. And if I have read it and if I agree with that choice, then it makes me really happy to see it being so celebrated and so widely read. So the very first book on the list is a collection of essays called There's Always This Year by Hanif Abdurraqib. And so these essays are meditating on life by looking at his passion in the sport of basketball, but also his home state of Ohio. And I'm sure this is a really moving reflection on mortality and life and belonging. But personally, I really don't have any interest in the sport of basketball, so I don't think I can bring myself to read a nonfiction book about that sport. I mean, last year I read a novel about the sport of squash, so I feel like I've done my best and read about sport and when really this is a subject that I have so little interest in. But if you have read this book and you think I really should read it, then do let me know about that in the comments. Martyr by Kaveh Akbar, a novel I just read recently and that has been appearing on multiple lists, and that's so wonderful to see because this story is so moving about an Iranian American man who is in his late 20s, on the brink of 30, and really trying to figure out what he wants to do in his life, the meaning of life, or even if he wants to continue on living, and about his ongoing grief over the mystery of his mother who died in a plane that was shot down when he was very young and who he's never really known, and longing for a connection with her, but also mourning the loss of his father who really has supported him throughout his life. And both his parents' deaths feel meaningless in a way that they were just kind of arbitrary, and this has provoked a lot of questions about the essential value of life. And the way he contemplates this and confronts this issue is so creative and moving, and I got really emotional reading this book, and it made me reflect on my own life quite a lot. So I loved this novel. Beautyland by Marie-Helene Bertino, another novel that's been appearing on multiple lists, and the story follows a woman that's born in Philadelphia in the 1970s and believes herself to be an alien and able to communicate with the alien overlords who view the planet Earth and the workings of humans. This gives me sort of vibes of that novel Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. Hopefully not as gruesome as that, but I've also heard that Beautyland is a really clever way of considering the issue of being neurodivergent and viewing human interaction and personality from a very different context. And I have read her previous novel Parakeet, which I really enjoyed the creativity and absurdity of that story. So I would like to read this new novel. James by Percival Everett, a novel I think that's been appearing on every list, and deservedly so. This tremendous story giving the point of view of Jim from the adventures of Huckleberry Finn and telling his own story, but taking it further. It's a kind of social critique, but also a really moving adventure story. So emotional how it gets at his relationship with Huck, and it's just tremendous. I mean, give this book all of the awards already. I love how on the inside cover there's a map of it, and I loved seeing Percival Everett in discussion with the author Caleb Azuma Nelson here in London, and he signed the book for me. And what a great writer. I've still only also read the Trees by him, but there's so much from his back catalog that I need to explore. Anita Damonte, Laughs Last. This is a novel about a female artist in the 1980s who has an argument with her husband, after which she falls out of a window and dies under very suspicious circumstances. And over a decade later, a woman starts investigating this female artist's life and her death and her legacy, and is also considering issues to do with class and race and misogyny in creative spaces. It sounds like a really moving story looking at art and history, and also it is based on the real life and death of a Cuban-American artist. Coming Home by Brittney Griner. This is a memoir by an American basketball star who's won multiple Olympic gold medals, and in 2022 she was arrested and detained when traveling through Russia on drug charges, and she went to prison. It became a big international and social media scandal, and in this she tells the real story from her point of view, and how eventually she was only able to be released through a trade of prisoners between America and Russia. So I know I said I wasn't that interested in reading about basketball, but this is really about a political scandal recently and international relations. So I think this would be interesting to read. Splinters by Leslie Jamison. This is another memoir about a woman whose marriage to her husband breaks down shortly after she gives birth to their child, and about her struggles as a single parent during the recent pandemic, and the struggles of working during that time. It's meant to be very moving and emotional, but also very beautifully written. Real Americans by Rachel Khong, another novel that's been appearing on multiple lists. It's a multi-generational tale looking at a mother, a daughter, and a grandson across a long period of time, from the Cultural Revolution in China to the near future in America and San Francisco. And I've been meaning to read this book because I loved Khong's previous novel, Goodbye Vitamin, or Goodbye Vitamin, but it's quite a long book, so I just need to make time for it. But I also love how the colors of this complement Martyr with the green and the pinks. The Book of Love by Kelly Link. This is a debut novel by an author that's more known for her short stories, and the story is about a trio of teenagers who are resurrected from the dead, and about the difficulty of trying to reintegrate with their lives since they've been dead for a year, which proves to be quite tricky and difficult because they have new powers since they've come back from the dead. So this sounds very creative and fantastical, but I think it also is meant to meaningfully look at issues to do with mortality. And I've never read Kelly Link before, but I've always meant to, especially because a while ago, many years ago, I met the author Carmen Maria Machado, who's excellent, and we were discussing books and authors, and she recommended to me an author who I can't remember if it was Kelly Link or Nell Zink, because I have never read either of those authors before because of the similarities of their name, of the Ella and ink in their names. I keep confusing them and I can't keep them separate in my mind. So I really need to read one or both of these authors just to figure out who is who. And finally, there is We Loved It All by Lydia Millet, who's more known as an author of fiction. And this is actually her very first memoir, in which she looks at issues to do with climate change and nature, but also there are personal reflections about love and motherhood and ambition, and I love some good non-fiction nature writing. So yeah, I hope to get to this at some point. But let me know if you have read any of the books on this list, if you agree with them, or if you disagree with them, or if you are looking forward to reading some of these books as well, or if you want to nominate some of your own best books of the year so far. Please let me know about that in the comments and give me some more of your suggestions. And I hope you have a lovely day. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.